everyone. I am Kate Lincoln Goldfinch.
I am Hannah Hembry Bell.
And we are
Law Moms Out Loud. Nailed it. Yes.
We got it right. We get it right when we're in person.
I know, right? There's a little more pressure on.
So we have another special show in person with a live studio audience, aka the Peanut Gallery. And we have a very special guest, Lily Shepard, who is out brand new, hot off the press. The people here in this room are the first ones to have access to this book, Pleasure Principles for Driven Women, Reclaiming Pleasure Through Movement. So Lily is our friend, and she is an embodiment coach and a trauma-informed yoga teacher and a former backup dancer for Beyonce and just all-around badass, as you can probably just tell. And so we're here to chat with Lily about her book today. And so, Lily, tell us a little bit about what prompted you to write this book.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I just love y'all, and this is so exciting. So what prompted me to write the book was to share my experience with using movement as a healing tool. And, I'm a professional dancer, as you mentioned. And so I was always dancing and moving from a performative standpoint. And I went through a really trying time in my life, and I was able to use movement as a healing tool and as a tool for me to be a more confident being and for me to move through my divorce and for me to I really got a brand new outlook on life. And it was something that I had been doing for so long, but I started to do it in a different way. And I wanted to share that with other women because it was just incredible what it changed in my life.
Well, and Lily, one of the things I've so enjoyed about getting to know you, besides, I don't know, when I'm around Lily, I just feel like
there's a spark,
just more like connected. Yeah, more sparkly, like connected to the world, and just generally speaking, like happier to be alive.
As evidenced by our outfits.
I know we're all glam today in honor of Lily, but one of the things that you'd shared with me, and I guess I should have asked you before if we're going to talk about this part, but like the sort of inspiration of your story and how, you didn't just all of a sudden be like, oh, I love pleasure principles. Let me just talk about that. So could you tell us a little bit more about your story and what got you to sit here having this conversation?
Yeah, well, what got me to having this conversation was like, in all essence, a breakdown, pretty much. I was dancing. I was an exotic dancer in Las Vegas for many years, and I was on stage and I was moving and dancing and doing what I do, but I just had this feeling like I'm so disconnected from my body right now. Like, how is it that I'm out here and I'm putting on this image of confidence and sensuality and sexuality, but I feel completely disconnected. My mind is elsewhere. My spirit is elsewhere. Like, something is wrong here. Mm-hmm. And so I went home and I was kind of going through it. This was before the shit hit the fan in my personal life, but I just had a feeling of like, something needs to change. And so I just heard a voice that said, just move. And it didn't say dance. And I think that's important to make that distinction, because it didn't say dance, which is what I was used to doing and what I'm comfortable with. It just said move. And movement is anything. Movement is rocking, is just like flailing, is rolling on the ground, is all of these things. And I did all of those things for an hour in my room. And I had such a cathartic release. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like, okay, this is what I was looking for. This is what I needed. All of the other things and all of the dancing for an audience and for applause and all that is great, but this is what I need to kind of move forward. And then the shit hit the fan in my personal life. I found out my ex-husband was cheating, and it was, everyone knew and I didn't know. And then there was all this lies and deception and drama and court and bankruptcy and foreclosure, and like everything just started unraveling. And so having a practice to come back to, a movement practice that was just kind of for me and not for anyone else, really helped me keep my life together at that time.
Well, and I mean, when my life, I'll say this honestly, like I've been in a life fall apart moment. So I feel you on that. And the first thing that came to my mind was not move. Do you think, I mean, did it feel like it inspired or it bubbled up from your experience? Because you're a trained dancer, right? So like, do you think, what What do you make of that? That in the, like most of us, I think, and we're in front of a bunch of our friends today. So I don't think most of our first thought is like, my life is going to total shit. Let me stand up and move now. Right. So that's a different thing.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's important that it didn't say dance, because I had been dancing. So it wasn't like put on music and have a dance party, you know, and you'll feel better. It definitely wasn't that. It was like, move. You need to physically move through these emotions, is what I made of it. Is like, you need somehow to actually have your physical body release some of this charge that is going on, because you're holding it and you can feel it, and it's emanating through your whole presence and how you're showing up to things. So I felt like that's what I made of it, is just having a physical way to move through the emotional obstruction that I was facing. I was like facing big blocks, and I needed to like free myself of it. And you know, I did the things I did affirmations, and I sat like this, and I was breathing, and I chanted, and I went to women's groups and circles, and like I was doing the like intellectual things that everyone says do when your life falls apart, but it wasn't doing anything. And I felt like the dancing and the moving and the just being able to have that release in my body is what changed things for me.
I've told you this before, and some people who watch the show know I was raised by hippies. And so I've been to these like
legit,
these,
purple crystal
sort
of hippie.
And they do these, you know, like wild hippie dance parties where there is no choreography. And we've talked about this thing called ecstatic dance. And so my experience of this, whatever intuitive movement, is people moving their bodies in wild, dancey ways. And the feeling that I get when I'm in those environments is like I freeze, because it just feels like there's a way you're supposed to do it, to move and process things through your body. And I'll feel very silly, even if I imagine, you know, doing this like by myself in a room. And I'm probably not alone. I mean, a lot of us feel like, okay, if we're just supposed to move and process through our body, are we just going to look really silly? And so can we just work out instead?
No, see, and that's the thing, is like the act of letting go of what something is supposed to look like is just like a bigger life principle, I think. Yeah. You know, it's just like getting rid of like what I think this is. And even for me, and I say that in the book, it's like I realized when I started developing my movement practice, I would default and do movement that I already knew I looked good doing, right? Because I've seen myself do it 100 times, and I'm like, oh, well, this feels good because I know I look good, you know? And it's like, well, that's not actually the point. You really have to release, surrender, whatever the word you want to use, and really be in a place of, this is for me and this is for my healing, and this is not for an audience or any kind of thing. And nobody's looking at you. That is the thing. You know, I've taught dance classes my whole life, and people are so in their heads about moving with other people. And really, we're all so hyper-focused on ourselves. Like, no one is paying attention, I promise you. But, you know, that's what we think, right? We're the star. Everyone's looking at us, you know? But
what do you
mean? Not like that.
Just kidding. I feel like the conversation, we need to back up a second, because, and I get the movement as the answer, but I think we need to take a second to figure out what is the question. What is the question that movement is the answer to? Now, and I've pulled up, I was typing out today, I got to read the book in advance. Don't be too jelly. And one of the quotes that really stuck with me, y'all bear with me a second. Ooh. There's nothing more painful than looking around and realizing you've become the sum total of the expectations of everyone around you. Hot damn, that hurts. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna say it a little louder for the people in the back. We literally have people in the back this time.
And they're very glam.
Yeah, so glam. I love it's so fun. Okay, there's nothing, and I've got some other good quotes, okay? This is one. There's nothing more painful than looking around and realizing you've become the sum total of the expectations of everyone around you. For me, I guess my question is, are you saying that movement is the answer to the question that poses.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. Because the body is what you have complete control and autonomy over. That's the thing. Like when everything else feels like an obligation and a duty, and you're in a role and you have checklists and things to get done and people to take care of, and there's just things that you have to do, your body and being able to move it the way that you want, the way that feels good, the way that brings pleasure to you, the way that brings healing to you, is the one thing that you can control in this life. It's how you experience reality is through your body and through your senses. So for me, yeah, absolutely, that's the answer.
Well, and because, oh, sorry, Kate, were you gonna say
No, go ahead.
Well, because the title of the book is Pleasure Prince. I mean, you just like it's that word, Pleasure Principles for Driven Women. And I read this. I don't actually think it just applies to women. The concepts in the book, I think guys absolutely should read this book too, to understand their partners, A, and B, to understand themselves. Because I think that y'all will experience a lot of this, whether you know how to like put the vocabulary around that or not. But the word pleasure. So when I hear that word, I'm going to get a little East Texas embarrassed here. Is I think about, evening on a Saturday night, my weekly evening Saturday night appointment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how you talk about what pleasure is. And so in this book, you're exploring the concept of pleasure. Can you tell us what that means according to Lily Shepard?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is to like, pleasure equals sex. Okay. I mean, yes, but it's so much wider than that. And I think that I was almost nervous about naming, titling the book Pleasure Principle, because I thought people were going to think, oh, she's going to teach me how to have sex or something like that. And it's like, no, that's really not what the book is about. But I think pleasure, I mean, I talk about two types of pleasure, right? And the first one is charismatic pleasure, which is defined as just a state of being, feeling free from need or want, and just feeling pleased. That's it. It's just a state. Nothing has to happen. Nothing is happening. It's just a state of being that you're in. And kinesthetic pleasure is more so like pleasure that you get from an activity like sex or like a good meal or like a glass of wine or a bubble bath or whatever. And so I think that for me, pleasure is both of these things. And I think the charismatic part about finding a state of being, the movement helps with that, because being in movement helps you become present. Becoming present helps you to notice when, hey, I'm free from need or want. There's nothing in this moment that I need. I'm actually good. And I don't think that we do that enough. Like we're always just in constant chasing of the next thing and what has to get done. And if we can just take a breath and sit back for a minute and say, wow, in this moment, I am free from need or want. I am good. I am pleased.
When that happens to me, I have no idea what to do with myself. Like when I'm sitting in a moment, it's about like enjoying joy. And that's something I've brought up in our group that we're part of a lot, is about how to enjoy joy. I literally have no idea, because I'll get in this space where for a moment it's like, okay, and I had a moment today. I got to go on a long walk this morning, longer than normal. I got to be outside, got to have a really good conversation on our call, really good team. Everything was just good. So I was in that, what is it, charismatic?
Mm-hmm.
Charismatic pleasure. And then I felt a little itchy of like,
because you're a driven woman. And that's that's it. It's like being able to sit and rest into those moments. It's a skill that takes development, and it takes being aware of, because the natural thing is when you are a go-getter, you want to, this is really great. Oh yeah, I'm really pleased. I'm good right now. But like, okay, and what's next? What's the next thing to pop off and get done and check off? So I think that it's something that needs to be cultivated. And so just being in those moments and like really fully sitting down in the pocket and being into it and being like, yeah, there's nothing I need or want. I'm good. And let it last as long as it needs to last.
My husband, Josh, he's here. He talks about, it's often related to like when as parents we get away and we have a moment. It's like when an indoor cat gets outside, and it just like freezes. What do I do with this freedom? Okay, let's talk. I do want us to talk about the men, how this applies to the men, but you brought up the driven women part of that. And the 2 paragraphs where you defined a driven woman really spoke to me. And so would you read those, whatever part, or just say, what you
Yeah.
mean by what a driven woman is?
I like the way I said it here.
It's pretty good.
I love it when I say things that big.
A driven woman is a go-getter who is intrinsically motivated to achieve. She often feels compelled to do so without much help from others. A driven, high-achieving woman tends to be highly disciplined with structure and routines that she can count on to ensure she gets the outcome she desires. In other words, she makes shit happen. She can be counted on by the people in her life to come through when they need her, and there's never a lack of situations that can't seem to be fixed without her involvement. She is solution-based in her approach to life and prefers to take direct action as opposed to going with the flow. The driven woman is busy and determined. She's not afraid to take risks, say the hard things, or make the tough decisions. The driven woman is not particularly interested in being soft or yielding because that's not how she's gotten to where she is today. For some driven women, femininity is cute and novel, something to be saved for a spa weekend with the girls or to turn on for an anniversary dinner with a partner. She sees her femininity as something to put on outside of the workplace. Because she's not necessarily afraid of being alone, she can often take a my way or the highway approach in relationships. It's easy to hide her fear of being vulnerable behind hyper independence.
Yeah, I mean, just the part, I think even the word, I mean, I can get really stuck on words, but the concept of femininity and what that means, and how to wear that, not necessarily in clothes, but in persona and affect, yet still be taken seriously. Like, I will come for you if you mess with me. Also, right? To be both is a whole, because here's another thing on the pleasure concept, and what that means and what the 2 types are. So here's what Lily tells us. Okay, y'all. She says to live a life of feminine fulfillment, and I think people fulfillment, I would posit, pleasure needs to be integrated into your daily life. You are what you practice. It needs to be the foundation on which your life is built, a state of being that you cultivate daily. When you don't consciously cultivate joy and pleasure, you can easily miss the beauty, awe, and mystery that fills our world. Your world shrinks and becomes a series of tasks and obligations that you meet while feeling exhausted and burdened. Yes.
It's a real thing.
Yeah. To say that not only is pleasure not saved for the bedroom on Saturday night, you say it is supposed to be in our daily life and the foundation upon which our life is built. So, excuse me, what? 1. Number 2, how? So what and how? To that, I mean, I don't think I could probably speak for most of us in this room. That's not currently the foundation of our life. I think the foundation of our life is the last part.
Duty.
Tasks and obligations that you meet while feeling exhausted and burdened. I've come a long way in this personally this year. So I know a smidge of which you speak. I've started to say that it matters what I want.
That's the thing.
Is a statement. And probably some people went, oh, a little bit, to hear a woman say, I want.
And it's important for no other reason than I want. I don't have to say, I want because, and it'll down the line make this sense. And what if I want, and then you'll want. It's like the being able to say, this is what I want, and it matters because I want it, period, is the thing. And I think people hear this, okay, integrate more joy and pleasure. And it's like, okay, I have to do these big things. I need to take trips and go on spa days and do these big grand gestures. And really it's about start small, with small movements, with movement, with small moments, with, I have clients that what I ask them to do is just list what are the things that really make you feel good? And that is so hard for so many women. They're like, what makes me feel good? Well, what do you mean? What?
The spa. That's the answer. The spa.
Right, the spa, a bubble bath. No. Like, what makes you really feel good? Spending time with my kids. Okay, girl, we're done being politically correct here. Like, yes, okay,
Love
I
you,
get
but-
it. Love you. And
Well-
that is, but like, not in relation to other people. Like, you as a being, not as a wife, not as a mother, not as an attorney, not as a doctor, not as the CEO, not as a church volunteer, not as a neighborhood watch patrol woman, all of these things that you are, like, just what makes you feel good as a human being, and actually write it out. And then the next step is like, okay, how long do these things take? Well, what makes me feel good is being on a boat, sipping champagne, and eating a fruit platter and charcuterie. Okay,
Yes.
so how long would that take? Okay, I need a good day for that. Okay, what else makes me feel good? Okay, sitting on the porch, having a cup of tea, watching the leaves fall. Okay, I could do that in like 15 minutes. Okay, so building out your list of things and then just saying, okay, every day, this is the time, and making the choice to say, sometimes I have time for the big things, sometimes I only have 15 minutes, but each and every day, I'm doing some of the things on this list.
Well, maybe that's the start is the list. Sorry, Katie.
Oh no, I mean it's there. I mean, there's two things. One, I think women and probably men too struggle with feeling selfish if we
Mhm.
take too much for ourselves. And the other thing is for all driven people, it's what's the end game here? If I carve out, 2 hours to sit on a boat every day, what am I going to achieve with that time? And wouldn't my time be better spent?
And that's the thing. And I think to answer your first question, a side effect of this is being able to meet those tasks and obligate, because they don't just go away when you start doing this work, but you are able to meet them in so much of a better place because you're joyful. You have done things for yourself. So you, instead of being exhausted and burned out, it's like your capacity to serve and to be a great mother and to be a great wife and to do all of these other things is enhanced because you've taken that time. You have to take the time first, and that's not the goal, but automatically, my daughter will say to me, Mom, good vibes today, Mom, good vibes. What'd you do today for yourself? She can
Oh.
feel it. I'm different with her
Mhm.
when I have taken time for myself. And to the second part of your question about, okay, what's the result, right? Because that's driven women. Okay, what are we getting out of this?
Right.
But I think that, one, it's part of the practice to be okay with not knowing a result in every single waking part of your life.
Mhm.
What would happen if you just explored and said, okay, well, I'm going to commit to doing this for 6 months, and then I'll see what the result is. I'll reflect and see what has actually happened.
It's like do a A/B test,
Like an investment.
So, yeah.
Let's see how this
Yeah.
investment.
Right,
See how this
right.
works out.
And going in with just a spirit of exploring and just observing and allowing, and then, okay, you take note and you're aware, and you can say, okay, what did this actually change for me? What moved the needle? What happened? And then go from there, versus starting with like, okay, each and every time I do this, I need to know what the result is going to be.
Can I jump us back to the movement thing? Because for me, I think I certainly am in the place where if I were just going to give myself an hour every day, movement would not be in the list of things because it feels unnatural to me. But I hear what you're saying, and I think that you're right, that this connection to the body is, paramount.
But it's only unnatural because you haven't been doing it.
Well, so this is the question. So I'm going to do the A/B test and start with the movement. So what do I do?
Put the music on.
Okay.
And so you might start by, this is a movement.
Should we do the thing we did at the sip and shop?
Oh yeah.
Does everyone? We'll do exercise.
Yeah,
Right. We did
yeah.
it.
We
Okay,
could do an exercise real quick, because
Everybody.
people are confused as to what's a movement. I have to be like leaping and doing pirouettes across the thing for it to be a movement, and that's not the case. And so everyone just take your right hand really quick.
Can the men do it too?
Of course,
Yes.
everyone could do it. Take your right hand, raise your right hand, and just for 10 seconds, I want you to move this right hand like it is on stage at the, I don't know, Apollo Theater. So yes. Okay, here we go. 10 seconds and go. Right hand, just move it. Do some things with it. Just see, what is it doing? Where does it want to go? What is it doing? You can put your middle finger up. It feels good. Whatever you want to
Ooh,
do.
I like jazz hands.
Yes. And boom.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. That is movement. If you sit and do that, but it's the fact that you're doing it with intention and you're like, oh, that stretches this. Oh, okay. And you just allow it to be, and it doesn't have to be anything. It looks goofy and who cares, but it's just something so simple that is movement. It does not have to be big or grand or look any kind of way, even if it's just one body part. I used to try to move my second toe for years. Like I'm a weirdo, I know, but I would just be like, I'm going to like move my second toe. And I focused on it for so long. I still can't do it, but it was just like,
I can move my second toe.
you can?
Yeah.
And
I
none
can.
of the other toes?
Yeah.
Girl.
Yeah. I have a good skill.
Okay.
That's your weird superpower.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple. That's one. I can't do lots of other things. No.
Yeah. And music is a big part of it. Putting on music that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And just seeing what comes up and starting sometimes with a feeling, okay, today I feel destructive. Okay, well, what music do we put on for that?
Right.
And then what comes on with that? I want to maybe break some shit. Who cares? Or today I feel sad and heavy and drained. Okay, what does that move? Automatically my body like sat into that because it's different. And so just playing around with it and giving yourself a chance to see what comes up.
Well, and our mission at Law Moms Out Loud is to help lawyer moms and lawyer mom supporters grow as moms, lawyers, and people. And we had to bury the lead with the people part because generally speaking, women will not do things for themselves. They'll do a lot to be a better lawyer and a better mother, but to be a more full person, that's at the end. Well, that's really what we're getting at is the person part. So I think that this ties in directly. Now, there are a few things we do at Law Moms Out Loud every single week. We, first of all, talk about what we're reading. That's easy. This book. We have some physical ones for sale. Where can they buy this book who are watching on the computer?
Yeah, barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com. Yeah, just type it in. All the places. It's available.
Yes. Okay. Now, what about our dominant thought? So every week we talk about the thought that's been on our minds. We found that every day the thoughts are kind of like blah, 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 lots of stuff, but there seems to be one thought that permeates. I had a friend ask me this question and it stuck with me. So do you have a thought this week that's been sticking with you as we wrap it up on a Friday?
Yeah. My thought has just been allow the current to carry you. Allow the current to carry you. And that's a hard thing because, we're doers. I'm a doer. I want to do the things and I want everyone to know I'm doing it. And it's like, but at times it's just like you have planted seeds and you don't have to completely stop and just lean back and float down the river, but you can allow yourself to be moved and you don't always have to be in this resist mode. So that's been my thought this week.
Well, because you said in the book, today I opt out of urgency. Ooh. When I read that, that's when I started typing everything. I'm like, oh my God. So today, maybe that's consistent with your thought. Today I always feel urgent. Like I at all times from the morning to the night when I go to sleep, I feel urgent. Me too. So to opt out of the urgency.
Because you have a choice. And that's the thing, because that urgency, what does that lead to? Rigidity, stress.
Stomping her neck.
Yeah, get it out. Disease, all of those things of like this every single day, everything is so urgent, but you have a choice.
Oof.
Like you can decide.
But then that makes it my responsibility. That's kind of annoying.
PPM day one.
All right, Katie, what about you? What's your dominant thought this week?
I'm thinking a lot about play. I shared this in PPM earlier that I'm reading this book called Free to Learn, and it's about how children learn best through play. And it's a whole, unschool sort of situation. But this, if you think about what is the definition of play, before you're reading a book about it, it would be a really difficult thing, I think, to define. But I know that I want a playful life, daily life, and at the end of my life, I want my life to have been playful. And the way that it was defined in this book is something that you do for its own sake, for the sake of the process. You know, whether you're building a sandcastle or you're playing a soccer game or you're and when shit's blowing up at the firm and I'm dealing with something annoying, is it a possibility to make even those moments playful?
Well, and what y'all are saying is a common thread about things for their own sake. That's one phrase I'll give it to everybody. If you've heard me talk in the last year, you know I say this. Like, I started asking myself, what would I do for my own sake? Like, when everybody says, where are we going to go to dinner? I'm like, always, Mom, we know. Wherever y'all want. I'm fine with whatever. And she'll be like, you know what? I want to go to this because I want to. And it feels damn good, actually, to say what you want. So things for our own sake. My dominant thought this week has been around creativity and curiosity and the relationship between those two things. And we've talked about that on our calls. Today was super meaningful to me. I started writing poems again, and not again. That's BS. Period. I started writing poems. I'd probably written like 2 or 3 my entire life up to that point. And I'd written one just about the concept of following where your curiosity leads you. And then our teacher this week, Allie, shared with us how that is how we eventually, if we do that, if we follow our curiosity and we're moving and we're doing, that our true purpose will be revealed. So really considering that, I'd seen an old quote from some old dead white guy, I'm sure, of like how about to stop, to stand and stare, When was the last time I just stood and stared? And I did today. And I felt, I think I would have said bliss, but I think I'm co-opting the same concept as pleasure. So that was pretty great.
A good one.
Pretty good one. Okay, last little bit. We have to give out our gold stars. Always my favorite. I no matter, I may be all pleasury and whatever, but I really want gold stars still. So let's see. Kate, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go
gold
first.
star.
Y'all know Marla Mattinson. She has a business called the Intimacy Experts, and she started to do some really cool business coaching. Anyway, she came in and she did this process with my team, my leadership team, called Celebrate Mistakes. And it's this whole process of, yay, a mistake happened. Let's talk all through it, talk about our feelings and get to what we learned from it in your business, to have that discussion. And of course, she wanted me as the owner to talk about one of my mistakes. And so I did that yesterday with her help and my leadership team, and went through this mistake that I made in leadership that, caused morale issues several months ago. And I just talked all about it. And then several people on the leadership team talked about their experience of it. And it was, I thought, very healing and good for me, for the team. And then to have this new process where we celebrate mistakes in a law firm, it just feels very different than the way most people handle it. And everybody really loved it. And anyway, I feel like I have a gold star for that.
Okay, what about you, Lily? A gold star as a mom, lawyer, or person this week?
Oh, well, as a lawyer, I went to court and I won my case. No,
Lily's not a lawyer.
I just feel really good about life. I'm just feeling like I'm really proud of this book. I feel like the impact that it's going to have on women really showing up and being better leaders in their own lives, and people that lead others, people that have teams, that have people that look up to them. When you can show up in your full expression of who you are, and confident, and having, taken the time for yourself, there's just such a different essence. And I look forward to just seeing that permeate throughout everyone. And so I feel really good about that. I feel really good that this is out in the world. And yeah, I need a gold star. I've been saying this whole
You
time.
are. You're dressed like a gold
I
star.
am a
Yes.
living gold star. You know, I've been telling myself, like, this is a big, can I say curse words on here? I've been cursing.
We've been saying the whole
I'm
time.
like, this is a big fucking deal, Lily Shepard. This is a big deal.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so stop prancing around here like, oh, no, like this book, you are going to have women coming into their positions of leadership like boss ass bitches, still feminine, still leading with strength and conviction, but also very rooted and grounded in who they are. And that's a gold star if I ever heard one.
For sure.
I have personally, I'm going to cry. I have personally already been touched, not only by this book, but by you as a person and following your stuff online. So all of y'all can do this, like word for word on the internet. I'm not speaking in hyperbole. There is not better stuff than what Lily puts onto the computer, period. This is where you say your handle, at Lily Shepard.
At Lily Shepard Moves, everywhere. LinkedIn. Well, no, that's just my regular name, but Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the places.
Yes, you should be
One
pulling
L.
out. Yeah, one L, one P.
Yep.
In Shepard. I don't know if there's normally 2 P's in Shepard.
No H's. Oh, SHEPARD.
But literal syllable by syllable, it's not anything better. And what I appreciate so much is you say things I've never heard or thought before.
Like, high achieving women need more than a bubble bath. I loved that post.
Yeah. Or like opting out of urgency. I mean, I've never heard any, I didn't know that. Number one, I didn't really realize I was in urgency, and I definitely didn't know I could opt out. So like already what you've done just by being who you are as a person and who you are when you're around people in real life who have the privilege of knowing you, A, goal met, B, like even just my experience as someone who could, who may watch this later in a recording or whatever, can have the same experience, to have their actual life changed in a way that affects pleasure for them. And I mean, oh damn, I can't think of anything better to do. So it's happening. My gold star for me was this week. I was trying to think of how to say this. In Texas, there's a team called Texas Tech, Rectum Tech. Hannah rectum tectum this week.
I don't think they say that.
They say rectum tech. I'm just adding the rectum. Oh, I just realized why everyone's laughing. Oh my God.
Gold star.
Okay. Oh my God. I'm so embarrassed now. I can't. Anyways, so my whole point. Shit, I don't remember what I was going to say now. No. Oh, well, I just like y'all. What I meant to say was like I showed up and some people messed around and found out with me this week. I stood up to the plate and did what I needed to do, and felt like I was a badass
Boss ass
bitch person, in a good way, this week in terms of just dealing with some things at the firm. I also felt like in a not sort of aggressive way, but felt like a real leader. That, I mean, I've talked about the word leader, naturally a leader, but to actually exercise skills as a leader, I really did, in probably the biggest way I've ever done, for my team this week. And I'm a big gold star, and I am sure that is affected by the work I've learned from you. I have no doubt that already it's become a part of me. And I'm so thankful that when you heard that whisper to get up and move, that you got up and did.
So we can start to wrap the show, but we do have this mic up
Any
here.
questions?
If anybody in the audience has a question or needs a gold star. And while we're waiting and giving you a moment, let's see who's from PPM OG in the room. New Kids on the Block, is that what we're calling?
All right. So
half and half.
yeah, for everybody watching, there's a merger of two groups that's happening in real life here, that we're going to have a party and everything after we're done yapping. So that's coming next. But I think we've got our first question.
Looking good.
Yes.
Wow.
Woo.
Yes.
We got the glam memo.
thank you so much for putting your work into the world. I love that you listen to that whisper too, and that your gold star is receiving the beauty of your essence in the world. Like that's what you're doing right now. So thank you. My question, as I was listening to you all sort of process the dynamic of how movement is connected to us, connecting to our pleasure, I thought about the psychological term of suppression, right? And it sort of was like named or said without really being said, that as women, culturally, in our families growing up, in the religions that raised us, et cetera, we were taught to suppress the need or the want for pleasure. And so I thought about how movement allows the expansion of that, right? Like it allows us to be in the moment. I can't remember the cool fancy term that you used with the, I am just sitting in this pleasurable moment. So the question is, how have you noticed in your journey, and I'm sure it's in the book and I can't wait to read it, how have you noticed in your journey how the connection between movement as release from the suppression of pleasure and how you've just allowed yourself to feed that need for movement? Does that question make sense? Okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I have to say that I'm very lucky in the sense that I didn't grow up with a lot of shame and a lot of suppression around my body and movement and those things. But I realize that that is not the case for a lot of people, and that a lot of us grow up in ways that we might even want to move, but we can't because a man might be looking, or we might, pay attention to us. And so for me, I think that being able to see my body as my own, and to understand that I can move to do so many things. I can move to process. And I talk about trauma a lot in the book, and it not being kind of the thing that happens, but the effect of what's left there, in your soul and your spirit and your cellular memory and in all of those things. So I kind of went all around, but I think it's about freedom in essence. And that suppression shows up even in the way that we carry ourselves and in our posture and in the way that we interact with other people. And so making the commitment to keep moving and just keep moving through whatever it is, you will find just there's so much expansion that happens, and you noticeably start to feel more free when you're not even in a movement situation. Like even your pedestrian movements get a little more flair. Your chest is a little more open, your neck is a little more elongated. You're just moving differently. And so I think, I don't know, does that answer your question? I feel like I went around and around, but
I got you. It's great. Yeah, it's great. Lily, I think I speak for everybody here that we are so grateful to have you in our group. We're so excited that we're going to join. And I can speak for all of the OG. I do speak for y'all that we are happy to have you and to start to learn from you every single morning. And thank everyone for coming to support us all doing our thing. So let's give it up for Lily, and thank you for watching.
And thank you to How to Manage.
Yes, and thank you to How to Manage a Small Law Firm for sponsoring this happy hour, and we can make sure and say a lot of thanks. So see ya next week.
Yay.